The night was unusually quiet in the little town of Evershade. Stars blinked faintly above, but the moon hid behind a veil of clouds, as if the sky itself was afraid of what lurked beneath. In one small house, a boy sat on his window ledge, legs swinging casually, his gaze distant. His name was Luca. A boy of restless laughter and untamed dreams, yet inside him there was a loneliness no one could see. Luca leaned back, tossing a pebble into the dark street below. Luca, thinking, whispering to himself, same boring nights, same boring town. Everyone says Evershade is peaceful, but honestly, it feels dead. His eyes flickered up at the forest line in the distance, the forbidden forest. People in town always whispered about it. Shadows moving on their own, voices calling in the dark. Luca smirked. Luca, forbidden, huh? That word makes it tempting. He chuckled, though his heart thumped with an odd mix of excitement and dread. That night, Luca fell asleep at his desk, head resting on old sketchbooks. But in his sleep, darkness surrounded him. He heard a whisper, low and chilling, mysterious voice. Luca. He spun around in the dream. Shadows curled like smoke, taking shapes of creatures with red eyes. Luca, shouting, "Who's there?" A figure stepped out of the mist, tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes glowing silver. His presence was terrifying yet magnetic. Unknown man, deep, cold. "You shouldn't be here." Luca's breath caught. He wanted to run, yet he couldn't look away. The man reached out, shadows curling from his hand. Luca, wait! He jolted awake, chest heaving, sweat clung to his forehead. Luca panting. What the hell? But deep down, the dream left more than fear. It left curiosity. The next day, while his best friend Julian teased him about being reckless, Luca couldn't get the dream out of his head. Julian laughing, "Don't tell me you're actually thinking of going there. The forest isn't a joke, Luca. People vanish." Luca? Or maybe they just got bored of this town and ran away. Come on, Jules, you don't actually believe in ghost stories, do you? Julian frowned, more serious than usual. Julian, quietly. Some stories are told for a reason, but Luca only winked. That evening, curiosity won. Luca slipped past the fences into the forbidden forest. The deeper he went, the darker it became. The trees loomed tall, twisted, their branches clawing at the sky. The air grew colder. Every crunch of leaves beneath his shoes echoed like a warning. Luca, mocking himself. Brilliant idea, Luca. Alone, at night, totally safe. Then, he froze. Ahead, a figure stood among the shadows. Tall, broad, motionless, silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Luca's heart slammed against his ribs. Luca, whispering, "It's you." The figure stepped forward. The moon slipped from behind the clouds, and Luca saw him clearly. A man dressed in black with an aura of danger so heavy it made the air thick. His eyes were sharp, emotionless, and yet captivating. Man coldly said, "You shouldn't have come here." Luca stumbled back. Luca, trying to sound brave. "Funny, I think I've heard that line before. Deja vu?" The man's eyes narrowed. He moved so fast, Luca barely saw him. Suddenly, he was inches away, shadows swirling at his fingertips like living smoke. Man low, threatening. "One more step and you won't leave alive." Luca's throat went dry, but his lips curved into a smirk. "Luca, you're exactly like my dream." That seemed to make the man hesitate just for a moment. Man sharp, demanding, "Who are you?" Luca, grinning nervously, "Luca, and you." The man didn't answer. Instead, the shadows writhed around his hand, forming into sharp tendrils. He raised it, Luca panicking, shouting, "Wait, wait, wait!" But the shadows stopped an inch from Luca's chest. The man's eyes flickered with something strange, not just coldness, something deeper. Man quietly, almost to himself, "Why can't I?" The shadows vanished. The man, still staring at Luca, turned sharply and stepped back into the dark. Luca calling after him, "Hey, wait, who are you?" But the forest swallowed the man whole. Luca stood frozen, his heart still pounding. That look in the man's eyes, it wasn't hatred, it wasn't mercy. It was something else, something dangerous, something that made Luca's chest ache in ways he didn't understand. That night, Luca couldn't sleep. The silver eyes haunted him. The stranger's words repeated in his mind, "You shouldn't have come here." He tossed and turned, finally grabbing his sketchbook. His hand moved almost unconsciously, pencil scratching the page. When he looked down, his stomach flipped. A perfect sketch of that man's face, sharp jawline, piercing silver eyes, expression cold as ice. Luca muttering to himself, "Who the hell are you?" The next morning, Julian noticed something was off. "Julian, you're unusually quiet. Didn't get enough sleep?" Luca shrugged, Luca half smiling. "Dreams, nightmares, maybe both." Julian raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess, you went there, didn't you?" "The forest." Luca froze. Julian angrily whispering, Luca, I told you. Luca cutting in, I'm fine. I didn't die. Relax. Julian looked away, jaw tight. Julian quietly, you don't understand what's in there. Luca tilted his head, curiosity sparking. Luca, do you? But Julian didn't answer. That evening, Luca's curiosity won again. He returned to the forest. Every instinct screamed at him to stay away, but his feet carried him deeper. And then he felt it. The temperature dropped. The air thickened. Shadows stirred unnaturally, Luca whispering, smirking nervously. All right, Silver Eyes, come out. A branch cracked behind him. He spun around. There he was. The man stepped out of the darkness, aura colder than before. Luca grinning. Hey, missed me? Man, sharp, irritated tone. You again. Luca. Yeah, me again. Starting to think you're stalking me. The man's jaw tightened. He stepped forward and suddenly was backed against a tree, his heart racing. Man, low voice. You don't know what you're playing with. Luca swallowed hard, but smirked anyway. Luca. Then tell me. Teach me. The man's hand hovered near Luca's throat, but he didn't touch. Shadows writhed around his fingers like snakes waiting to strike. Yet his eyes betrayed him, a flicker of hesitation, of conflict. Man coldly, stay away. And then he vanished. Just like smoke. Luca slid down the tree trunk, chest heaving. Luca breathless, whispering to himself, damn it. Why do you feel so human? As Luca left the forest, he felt watched. Something moved in the shadows behind him. Not the man this time, something else. Glowing red eyes blinked from the dark. Luca nervously joking, okay, not funny. The creature leapt out, a twisted beast made of shadows with sharp claws and no face. Luca stumbled back, terrified. Sudden black smoke surged between them. The beast shrieked as it was torn apart by shadows sharper than blades. When the smoke cleared, the silver-eyed man stood there. His chest rose and fell, his hand dripping with black shadow essence. Luca's stammering voice, you saved me? The man didn't answer. He turned away, his voice sharp. Man, you shouldn't be here. Luca glaring, frustrated. Yeah, you keep saying that, but you keep saving me too. Make up your mind. The man stopped walking. His back stiffened. For the first time, his voice cracked with something almost human. Man quietly, I don't know why. Luca's heart hammered. He stepped forward. Luca, then tell me your name. If you're going to haunt my dreams and save my ass, at least give me that. The man turned, silver eyes narrowing. For a long moment, silence. Finally, he spoke. His voice was low, like a forbidden secret. Man, Damien. The name echoed in Luca's chest like a chord struck too deep. Luca whispering, Damien. The man's expression soft, just a flicker before it hardened again. He vanished into the shadows, leaving Luca alone. But this time, Luca didn't feel fear. He felt drawn. And so the bond began. Born from shadows, sealed by a name. Luca sat at his desk, staring at the name scrawled across his notebook. Damien. He whispered it over and over, as if the sound itself might summon the silver-eyed stranger again. His heart betrayed him. Whenever he thought of Damien, it skipped, not out of fear, but something dangerously close to fascination. Julian barged into his room without knocking. Julian suspiciously, you've been acting weird. Luca grinning lazily, I'm always weird. Julian serious, no, this is different. What happened in the forest? Luca hesitated, then smirked to cover his nerves. Luca, met someone. Julian's expression hardened instantly. Who? Who? Luca shrugged. Tall, cold, mysterious. Saved me from a monster. Pretty sure he hates me. Definitely my type. Julian's eyes darkened. His fists clenched, though he quickly shoved his hands into his pockets. Julian low, tense. Luca, stay away from him. Luca teasing. Why? Jealous? Julian didn't laugh. Julian sharp. I'm serious. He's not human. Luca froze, his grin fading. Luca quietly. And you know that how? Julian's jaw worked as if he regretted speaking. Then he muttered, Julian, just promise me you won't see him again. Luca forced a laugh, but his stomach twisted. That night, Luca wandered through town trying to clear his head, but the shadows seemed wrong. Streetlights flickered, the air grew cold, and then he heard it, a low growl. From an alley, two shadow beasts slithered out, their claws scraping the ground. Luca nervously, seriously? You guys don't take nights off? They lunged. Luca ran, heart pounding, but the beasts were fast. One swiped at his arm, ripping through his sleeve. Just as it pounced again, a wave of black smoke slashed through the air. The beast screeched, dissolving into nothing. The second beast whipped its head around, snarling at the newcomer. Damien stepped from the shadows, his silver eyes glowing like moonlight on steel. In one swift motion, he raised his hand. Shadows formed into spears, piercing the creature until it evaporated with a final shriek. Silence fell. Only Luca's ragged breaths filled the night. Luca, half smiling, breathless. "What took you so long?" Damien turned to him, eyes sharp. Damien angrily, "You idiot. Do you have a death wish?" Luca grinning weakly, "Maybe. But hey, you keep saving me. Feels like we're connected." Damien's jaw tightened. He stalked forward until he was right in front of Luca. Damien low, furious, "You don't understand. You shouldn't be anywhere near me." Luca whispering, heart racing. "Then why can't you let me die?" Damien froze. His breath hitched. For a second, something raw flashed in his eyes, pain, longing, conflict. His hand shot up, gripping the wall just beside Luca's head. The move caged Luca in, their faces inches apart. Luca whispering, "Damien." The name slipped from his lips like a secret. Damien's eyes flickered, his cold mask cracking for the briefest moment. Their breaths mingled in the air, heavy and electric. But before anything more could happen, Damien tore himself away, vanishing into the night. Luca stood trembling, heart hammering so loudly he was sure the entire town could hear. Narrator softly hammered, and for the first time, fear wasn't what made Luca's chest ache. It was desire. The next morning, Julian noticed the bandage on Luca's arm. Julian frowning, "You're hurt." Luca shrugging, "Nothing big, just bad luck." Julian's eyes narrowed. "He was there, wasn't he?" Luca hesitated. "Luca, maybe." Julian grabbed his shoulders, desperation flashing in his eyes. Julian urgent, almost trembling. "Listen to me, Luca. That man is dangerous. If you keep seeing him, you'll—" But Luca pulled away, smirking to hide his confusion. "Relax, Jules. I can take care of myself." But deep down, his heart was already betraying him. He didn't want to stay away from Damien. He couldn't. That night, Luca's sleep was far from peaceful. He dreamt of silver eyes glowing in the darkness, watching him. Not cruelly, but protectively. Yet in the same dream, shadow beasts surrounded him, their claws dripping black smoke. He screamed for help, and Damien appeared. But when Damien reached out his hand, it wasn't to save him. It was to drag him into the shadows. Luca jolted awake, sweat dripping down his face, his heart hammering like a drum. Luca panting, "Damien." He pressed a hand to his chest, terrified of what the dream meant, and even more terrified that he wanted it. Far away, hidden in the forest, Damien stood beneath a dying tree. Shadows curled around him like loyal dogs. His face remained emotionless, but his hands trembled. Damien muttering to himself, "I shouldn't have saved him. I shouldn't." The shadows hissed, whispering in a language only he could hear. Tempting. Mocking. He closed his eyes, remembering Luca's voice, the way his name had slipped from those lips like a prayer. For the first time in centuries, Damien felt something he thought he had lost forever. A pull, a warmth, a weakness. And that weakness terrified him. The next day, the town held its annual lantern festival. Bright lights, laughter, music filling the streets. Luca and Julian walked through the crowd, then at the scent of roasted food and flowers in the air. Julian forced a smile, but his eyes scanned the shadows nervously. "Julian, stay close to me." Luca teasing, "You're not my babysitter." Julian's smile faltered. Julian quietly, almost to himself, "If only you knew." Luca didn't hear him. His eyes were already wandering, searching. And then he froze. Across the lantern-lit crowd, he saw him. Damien. Standing in the shadows, silver eyes locked on him. The world seemed to blur. The laughter, the music, it all disappeared. It was only them. Luca whispering, "Damien." Luca slipped away from Julian, weaving through the crowd until he reached a quiet alley. Damien stood there, waiting. His presence swallowed the light, the lantern glow flickering weakly around him. Luca smiling nervously. "You came." Damien coldly, "I shouldn't have." Luca stepped closer. "Luca, then why are you here?" Damien didn't answer. His jaw tightened, had his silver eyes sharp but conflicted. Luca's chest ached. He reached out, his fingers brushing Damien's sleeve. The air between them charged as if the world itself was holding its breath. Luca softly, "Why do you keep saving me?" Damien finally spoke, his voice rough, almost breaking. "Damien, because I can't watch you die." Their eyes locked. The world disappeared again, only their pounding hearts filling the silence. Luca leaned in, and for the first time, Damien didn't pull away. Their lips hovered dangerously close, breaths mingling, shadows curling hungrily around them. But before they could touch, a scream ripped through the night. The festival erupted into chaos. Lanterns shattered, stalls overturned, people fled screaming. Shadow beasts poured into the streets, their red eyes glowing, their shrieks piercing the night. Luca spun around, horrified. "Luca!" No. Damien's face hardened instantly. He stepped forward, shadows exploding from his body like a storm, slicing through the beasts. Luca's eyes widened. The power, the darkness. It was terrifying and beautiful. Julian appeared, grabbing Luca's arm, Julian shouting, "Run!" But Luca's eyes were fixed on Damien, who stood like a dark god among the chaos, his silver eyes glowing with rage. One beast broke past Damien's shadows, lunging straight for Luca. Julian shoved him aside, taking the hit himself. The beast's claws tore across Julian's chest and he collapsed, blood spraying across the ground. Luca screaming, "Julian!" Damien's shadows shredded the beast in an instant, but it was too late. Luca dropped to his knees, holding Julian's trembling body. Julian weakly, coughing blood. "Luca, stay away from him." His eyes flickered toward Damien, filled with a hatred Luca didn't understand. Julian gasping, "He'll destroy you." And then his body went limp. Luca's eyes filled with tears. His hands shook. He looked up at Damien. Silver eyes, unrateable expression, shadows writhing around him. Luca shouting, voice breaking, "What are you?" The screen fades to black. Narrator soft, chilling. And so begins the bond of light and shadow, of desire and destruction.